Hi, I'm psychology professor Bruce Hinrichs, and in this short video, I'm going to introduce you to just some of the basic ideas about male-female sex determination. In 1965, a baby boy was born in Canada, and his parents had him circumcised, but something went wrong and his penis was destroyed. And the parents consulted an expert at that time on gender development. And they were told that the belief at that time was that gender was completely developed by the way a person was raised, by the culture, by the environment. And so the parents were told to simply raise him as a girl, and he would have hormone injections and he would turn out fine. Well, it didn't turn out fine. When he was about 11 years old, he said he was having all kinds of troubles, and his father told him the truth, which he wasn't supposed to do. And this little boy decided he did not want to be a girl. He wanted to be a boy. And so he had surgery to change him back physically to male. His name is David Reimer. He had a very difficult life and ended up committing suicide in 2004. But this case was a major case in changing the minds of experts that biology and hormones and genetics have a big influence on our gender. The story begins at fertilization. This is when a sperm cell from a man penetrates an egg or an ovum from a woman. This is fertilization. The sperm cells carrying typically 23 chromosomes, and the egg, the ovum, also has 23 chromosomes typically. Occasionally mistakes happen. Sometimes the sperm cell has the wrong number, sometimes the egg has the wrong number. That is then called a chromosome abnormality, a story for a different video. Here we have 23 chromosomes in the sperm, 23 in the egg, and so the result will be a fertilized egg with 46 chromosomes. What scientists like to do is look at those 46 chromosomes and organize them according to size. So the largest chromosomes are called pair number 1. Now you got one of those from your mother and one of those from your father. And the next largest are called pair number 2. One from mother and one from father. The next number 3, and so on down to number 22. Wait a minute, 22 times 2, that's 44. What about the other 2 chromosomes? There's 46 altogether. Yes, the other 2 chromosomes are called sex chromosomes because they're different typically in men and women. There are 2 sex chromosomes. One is very large, it's called an X chromosome, and one is very small, it's called a Y chromosome. A sperm cell from a man will have 23 chromosomes. 22 of them are called autosomes. They're the same in men and women, but one of them will be a sex chromosome. It will be either an X or a Y because men have both an X and a Y chromosome. Typically, a woman has 2 X chromosomes along with 22 pairs of autosomes. So an egg from a woman, an ovum, we call the egg an ovum, will have 23 chromosomes, one number 1, one number 2, one number 3, one number 4, one number 5, and so on. And one of the sex chromosomes, that means an X chromosome. It means everybody gets an X chromosome from their mother. Therefore, the fertilized egg, which we call a zygote, will have 44 of the autosomes, 22 from dad, 22 from mom, one number 1, one number 2, one number 3, one number 4, and so on, and 2 sex chromosomes, an X from the mother and either an X or a Y from the father. Okay, if you get the X chromosome from your mom and an X chromosome from your dad, you'll have 2 X chromosomes along, of course, with 44 other chromosomes. You have 46 altogether, 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 altogether. So if you have two X's in there, that's the recipe to make a girl. If you have the X from mom plus you got a Y chromosome from dad, that's the recipe to make a boy. There are many different factors involved in gender and sex. There's your biological sex, there's your assigned sex, there's your gender identity, there's the way you express yourself, and so on. But in this video, we're talking about male-female determination. And sometimes people develop what is called intersex, which means they're not clearly male or female, that they have some characteristics of both. The sex chromosomes are different in men and women. Women have two X chromosomes. These are the large, very large sex chromosomes. You see a picture here. And men have an X chromosome that they got from their mother. Women only have two X chromosomes. So everybody's going to get an X chromosome from their mother. Plus, men have a Y chromosome they got from their father, because men have an X and a Y. So the sex chromosomes are called X and Y. Here's a funny cartoon where the little boy says, I like solving problems with X's and Y's. So I can probably go into math or maybe genetics. Yeah, ha, ha, ha. Now here's how development works. Everyone would turn out to be a female. The default is female for human development, unless you change something. And so that is the point of the Y chromosome. The point of the Y chromosome is to masculinize the person. So on the Y chromosome, the Y chromosome is small, so there aren't many genetic recipes there. But there is one recipe. The recipes are called genes, by the way. There is one recipe called the SRY gene, sex determining region Y gene, SRY gene. And this gene is a major contributor to masculinizing the embryo and the fetus. So way before birth, this gene is present in the zygote and in the embryo, which the zygote turns into. And this gene is a recipe for a hormone called testosterone. And that hormone then masculinizes the body and the brain of the embryo. So male-female differences in science are called sex. So when we say sex, we don't mean people are having sex or having sexual intercourse. We don't mean that. In the sciences, when we talk about sex, especially when we're talking about heredity and genetics, we're talking about the differences between men and women, or male and female. So prenatally, the presence of testosterone is hugely important. Usually in the normal development, natural development, the SRY gene on the Y chromosome is the recipe for testosterone. So when testosterone is present, that masculinizes the body. So it also, here's the point, masculinizes the brain, especially the part of the brain that is most involved with sex is the hypothalamus. So if we look in a certain region of the hypothalamus, we can see a difference between male and female brains. But what's interesting is that if a female XX recipe was prenatally, before birth, like way, way back, maybe in the second month of pregnancy, if that female embryo was exposed to testosterone, as shown here on the very right, the illustration on the right, female plus T, T means testosterone, that if a female embryo is exposed to testosterone, this will masculinize the body of that female. And so the female will end up with a male brain and probably male parts of the body. Not completely, because SRY gene just makes testosterone. The Y chromosome has more than just one gene on it. Now, this timing is important because this can only happen prenatally. You can't take an adult woman and inject her with testosterone and it will masculinize her. No, that won't work. It has to be when the parts of the body and brain are developing. And that starts at around 6 to 8 weeks of pregnancy. There is a condition called CAH, congenital adrenal hyperplasia. The result is an embryo who has the recipe XX, the recipe for a girl, but is exposed to testosterone prenatally, which masculinizes the body and the brain, depending upon how much testosterone there is, and the timing, when is it available? And so when these babies are born, they have some masculine features unless they have prenatal drug therapy to block the effect of testosterone. Okay, here is the picture of a man who is CAH, congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So he apparently was exposed to a lot of testosterone, and it masculinized him a lot, and therefore he lives his life as a male, even though he has XX genotype. So there's a difference between genotype and phenotype. And here's a picture of another person who has intersex, the intersex condition called CAH, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which means she has inherited the XX chromosomes, which is the recipe to make her female, but she was exposed to testosterone prenatally. Apparently, she was not exposed to very much testosterone, or the timing was off because she has developed a gender identity as female. So she thinks of herself as female, and she lives as a female, even though she has some male characteristics like a small penis, for example. Here's a very interesting example. It's called Swire Syndrome. This woman has the recipe to be a man. She inherited an X chromosome from her mother and a Y chromosome from her father. She has the SRY gene, but the gene is not working properly. It has what is called a mutation. A mutation means there's an error, a mistake in the genetic recipe. So the recipe has an error in it. So it's not working right. So it does not create testosterone. So prenatally, when she was developing as an embryo, she did not have testosterone present because the SRY gene was mutated. Therefore, the default development is female. So she developed as a female, and she developed a female body and a female brain. So she's female, even though she carries the recipe to be male. So she has the XY chromosomes. Now, is she 100% female? No, because she only has one X chromosome. She doesn't have two X chromosomes. And so she won't, for example, be able to create eggs. She can't make eggs. But she thinks of herself as female, and she has female anatomy for the most part. Here's another example of intersex. These four women are all XY. That is, they all have the genetic recipe to be male, but they turned out female. Why? Because they have a mutation? No, they don't have a mutation in the SRY gene. Their SRY gene, when they were developing prenatally, their SRY gene was making testosterone. But these women have a condition in which the cells of their body are not sensitive, do not react to testosterone. This is called androgen insensitivity. The cells of their body, including the cells of their brain, do not react to testosterone. So even though they had testosterone present, and they should have been masculinized according to nature, but nature played a little trick and made the cells of their body insensitive to testosterone. So the default is they developed into women. So these are women. What this shows us is the difference between your recipe, your genetic recipe, and how you actually turn out. So they have the genetic recipe to be males, but they turned out to be females. So we have these words we call genotype and phenotype. Genotype means the type of genetic recipe that you had. Phenotype means the type of physical characteristic you actually end up having. Here's a supermodel who has androgen insensitivity syndrome. Androgen insensitivity syndrome. In other words, she has the XY genotype, but her body was not sensitive to testosterone prenatally, so her body and her brain developed female. So she thinks of herself as female, she has female anatomy, except she does not have two X chromosomes, therefore she can't make eggs. Okay, now you learned a little bit about male-female sex determination. Isn't it amazing? If you went in the past, even 100 years, and told people how this works, they'd say you're crazy. They'd lock you up. It reminds me of a story many years ago. Missionaries went to an island in the South Pacific, and they tried to explain how babies are born to the islanders. And they said a man and a woman have sexual intercourse, and then 9 months later, a baby is born. And one of the men on the island said, that can't be. That's impossible. See, they believed that a woman lays on the beach, and the spirits from the ocean enter her body, and then that's what causes them to have a baby. And this man said, "What your story is impossible because I went on a hunting trip for a year, and when I came home, my wife was pregnant." Well, check out more of my videos. Subscribe to my channel called Brucey, and you'll see all my videos there. Bye.